My view, listen, it was just incredible self-entitlement. Was it not? From the school principal, well, this particular school principal, that it's a hot lunch or nothing, basically, for her kids. And I'm going, what? There are people who are literally struggling throughout New Zealand, but they every day make sure their kids are fed. But I'm stunned by, oh, no, we're not really happy now. We may be getting a school lunch and we maybe have a whole series of kids who don't need it are still going to get one, but it better be hot. Vaughan, are you there now? I hope we can talk to you.
Yeah, I think, look, I've always been here, but I don't think you've been able to hear me.
No, we haven't. No, sorry. So I think the fault was at our own.
It's all good.
Hey, thanks, mate. Good. Thanks for hanging in there. Much appreciated.
No problem.
Sorry,
no worries.
I would have thought you'd be quite happy, just quietly, as a secondary school principal, because you are part of the school lunch program. You're a low socially decile school.
Yep.
About yesterday's announcement?
Yeah, devil's in the detail. So the direction of travel of we're not getting rid of the program is certainly encouraging. There's going to be a change to the model of delivery for years 7 to 13. What that model looks like is only skeletal at the moment, but it's trying to take advantage of economies of scale, which from a business point of view is not silly. And if we can save some money by simply changing the way we order things, that's great. I suppose what happens in the absence of granular detail is people jump to conclusions about what might or might not be in place. So for our primary colleagues, the up to year 6, the existing contracts for provision and supply, which could be do-it-yourself or contracted out to an external provider, will remain in play. And then for those year 7s to 13s, it'll be up to the schools to order through some sort of portal and get the products that they need to feed the kids that they need to feed.
I'm sure you can understand, though, that a number of people would have listened to the views of Leanne Webb, your colleague from Aorere College. She wasn't the only one, because a number of high school teachers and principals were saying yesterday that were concerned that $3 a meal would not be enough, and others were worried that a shift from hot meals to sandwiches and fruit would reduce the meal's positive effect on attendance. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a hell of a lot of parents out there, including me, going, I'm sorry, but that's what I send my school kids to school with, sandwiches and a piece of fruit.
Yeah.
And a muesli bar.
That's what I send my daughter to school with too.
Well, there you go. So didn't a certain element of self-entitlement enter the discussion yesterday afternoon?
Oh, look, I think given that we're a school, we can provide hot lunches here for half of our campus, just because of the storage facilities we've got and equipment that we've got. And they're certainly very popular and certainly very nice. And they fit within the current price envelope. So they're good, and the kids like them and engage with them, and the waste side of things drops right off, right? So they all get nailed by the end of the lunchtime. So they're very fit for purpose and very well liked. Whether or not they're essential is up for debate, right? So what's essential is making sure you get some nutrition during the day if you don't get it anywhere else. So for that student where hot meals at home simply don't exist at all in terms of their landscape, it might be essential. But what's more important is making sure they've got a calorie payload that can get them through the day if it's not being provided for them elsewhere.
Yes, that's the way I read Leanne Webb's comments, which was that essentially the job of the school now was to make up for the primary deficit at home for all of the meals at home. And I don't think that's the job of the school lunch program, really, is it, to deal with that kind of social dysfunction?
No, I don't think it is. It's for some. It's the only light at the end of the nutritional tunnel, if you like, because the circumstances at home are so dire. And we help fill that gap as much as we can. There are other ways that we can do that through charitable support from, and I know the Minister mentioned places like Kids Can and all that sort of thing, but that's more non-perishable and not quite so not the hot and not the nice to have. So I think with regard to the changes to the program, we're yet to see what the detail of that looks like, and we get to see the practicalities of it. I think the cause for concern for me is not so much the $8 down to $3, but actually schools, it's up to you to staff it now. So in the previous model, it was you get a quantum of money, and that's your food and your staffing covered within that cost. So schools like mine, for example, we're essentially going to go from, it's $8.50 or whatever it is per student in terms of entitlement per lunch, down to $3. And from that $3, you've not only got to get the food cost, but also the staffing to prepare and distribute.
Isn't it reasonable to surmise, though, that this is where your parents come into play? If you are, for example, on a benefit somewhere, just as an example, and you can't afford to feed your kids properly, so that's what school's going to do, wouldn't it seem, a clear correlation that you would get parents in to assist you in delivering that particular program? Given that there is a benefit to their children accruing?
That could be a solution that's available to some. It's for some reason a little bit more challenging in a secondary space, but also a little bit more challenging the more socioeconomic disadvantage that you experience. The assumption there is that, for example, that parent who might be on a benefit might not be working has the means to get to you on a daily basis to provide the support you want.
Well, their kids
because
do.
There's a cost. Their kids do, yep, but there's no assumption that the parents do, because...
What do you mean they're trapped at home, Vaughan, and they can't possibly get out?
Yeah,
I mean, that's not an argument. Come on. You've got 1,600 pupils at your school. That roughly, even if they only had one parent each, that's 1,600 parents you've got available.
Yep, that is certainly a talent pool that we could look to explore. And I would love it if I had 1,600 parent volunteers that would like to help us with the school lunch program. The reality of that is that's unlikely to step forward. People, in terms of volunteering in the community, tend to step back, not forward.
Yesterday, though, when you were sitting and you heard the result or you heard the announcement, did you get it by email? Just can I say, or did you? How did you find out about?
I was actually enjoying the NZQA Scholarship Awards in Wellington when Minister Seymour made his announcement. So I got an email, but my associate principal was part of the Zoom or Teams meeting that the Associate Minister had with some secondary schools in our neck of the woods that were going to be affected by the changes. So face-to-face is probably the most honest answer, with Minister Seymour fronting up to a group of principals and saying what the changes were going to be. But without that detail of what the year 7 to 13 model will look like.
Okay. The extension into, though, preschool institutions, good idea?
Look, we all know the importance of making sure that not only that face time, but that nutritional payload goes into our 0 to 4s, or 0 to 5s, and that face time in that first 100 days and all that sort of stuff. What we do have is we've got an issue, for whatever reason, that kids are getting to us at the beginning of year 9, not with the literacy and numeracy skill set that they need. And it does seem that this particular government is very focused on the preschool and primary levels, backfilling that. It hasn't worked for us in the past, but actually getting that right for the current cohort of kids that are in there now, such that their secondary journey they're better equipped for later on.
No, it's a fair point you make, and I think, you're right, in terms of probably policy priorities. You guys might have to take a back step while they look at that to start with. Just quickly on that, is there any update on where you are with the curriculum development at all, or is it still at a sense of stasis?
There doesn't appear to be any update with regard to that. I think the public sector is still in a state of reorganising its workforce. And once that workforce has got its job security and job clarity, I think the wheels will get moving with a little bit more gusto.
Vaughan, and just on, because you and I share having children roughly the same age, I was just thinking about the experience that they've gone through, and they'll have completely different educational outcomes, as we know, based upon their parental background and their parents' love of education, etc. But I'm just thinking... The issue of school lunches has been fascinating to me because I think we always thought about there were just a deprived group of kids and, okay, they're now not so deprived, but the school lunches, I see, growing like topsy to a number of people who don't really need it but who get it for the reasons we've talked about before. But can I just ask you the next bit of that, which is there are we've got an obesity epidemic, and I don't know what it's like where you are, but one other thing I've noticed amongst my children's cohorts and peer groups, not so much in the South Island, I've got to be honest with you, but then maybe there's a reason for that, is the large number of obese children in our schools, in our secondary schools and in our primary schools, and many of them morbidly obese. In a way, they weren't there when you and I were at school, Vaughan. How ironic, isn't it, that we're talking about a lack of food going into kids, and yet we're looking at children with serious health issues, which it looks like they're going to carry through their entire lives as a consequence of not receiving proper nutrition, one might presume, and a little bit of exercise in the early stage. Is there anything that schools can do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we are sort of, we do get into that. So in schools where